Good morning. We're going to talk about whether or not you can have too much lag. That's always a question that comes up, and I've always taken the position that you can't have too much lag. And I think Mr. Doyle said, "Can you have too much love?" Well, I think that if we have 3 or 4 conditions, and those conditions are: if your wrists remain free, if your arms are hanging from your shoulder sockets, if your head's behind the ball, you can't have too much lag. And the fourth thing is that you need to get through it. And I've always known that, but I hadn't thought of that as the third condition. But I think we see it here with Ellsby. If we'll see that in just a second. If we look at the top, we've taken a look. We're taking a look at Sergio and Peter Ellsby and Trevino. And Trevino kind of is an interesting approach to lag. But when we look at Sergio and Ellsby at the top, we'll see that there's a big change from where they are at the top to where they go in the next frame. And the next frame is not the next frame, but the angle of the frame of greatest angle. So we go right to that. And while Sergio has a 27-degree increase, Peter only has a 22-degree increase. Peter's angle that he has there is so acute. He has 13 degrees. Gosh, that's almost laying his club shaft on his left arm. And that certainly indicates he has great amount of flexibility, just unusual amounts of flexibility. And most people don't have that. And Sergio has a great amount of flexibility as well. One of the things here is that it's probably easier to keep lag than it is to release lag. It takes more effort to get rid of lag. Now, the reason that all of our students get rid of lag is because they're so busy trying to get the clubs the ball. And these two fellows have the courage to not be in such a hurry to get the club the ball. The later you get there, the greater you are. And the sooner you get there, the worse you are. So first is worst and latest is greatest, I think. Now, one of the things that comes up all the time when you hear the commentators and they talk about release, and hopefully one of these days they'll be talking about Peter's release too, because he'll make his mark in the golf world. They always say that when Sergio gets to a spot like this, that he has such fast hands, he has such talented hands, he has such quick hands. And the implication is that he's using his hands to square up the club, to speed up the club, to level out the club to make contact, and essentially find the ball with a golf club that'll send it in the direction he's looking. And I think that's not the case at all. I think that actually he's one of the more consistent ball strikers, not because he has an inordinate amount of talent, which of course I think he does, but it's because he has the courage to leave it alone and let the club line up. So both of these fellas are allowing the club to line up. The club seeks to line up. When you swing a rope, the rope lines up with your left arm. It has to. And if you swing a rope, it actually lines up pretty close to where you'd like it to line up, unless you really help it. Now, the thing that I was thinking before I did this is that I was going to see that I think Sergio's probably been more consistent in his career than Peter. I'm not sure, because I don't know Peter's statistics as well as I should. I apologize. But I thought what I'd see is that Peter wouldn't have quite as much lag through impact, and that Sergio would have more. And of course that's just the reverse. Peter has more than Sergio. Sergio just lets it line up. Now that's an interesting thing, because if you let it line up, it's 180 degrees. That should be, from a theoretical point of view, it could be a point of highest speed. And where Peter still is at 159 degrees, which means he has 21 degrees of lineup yet to do. But I've always thought that that would be a nice insurance policy to not have any throwaway through impact. But what I also saw was, and I wasn't expecting to, but I should have if I think about it a little bit, is that Sergio has so much more leg work left. You know, Sergio has 43 degrees left in his right leg, and Peter's out of right leg. You know, Homer said you don't want to run out of right arm, and we'll talk about that with Trevino in just a minute. But you don't want to run out of right leg either. You want to see your right leg pushing in the ground helps you get through, and so does a bent left leg, and Peter's out of left leg as well, and Sergio still has 20 degrees left in his left leg. So I think that's one of the things we'll see here is how dramatic he gets through. Let's take a look over here at through the ball. Now you can see these yellow lines show us how much leg is used from release to follow through. And you can see that Sergio is still working through it more, and Peter Ellsby has he's pretty much with his upper arms, and gosh, you know, if he starts getting through like Sergio, or let's take a look at this guy. What Sergio or what Trevino does. So you can see how bent he is here now. If we take a look here. You see, this is 119 degrees. That's the angle of his right arm at impact. Let's go to impact here for a sec. Oop, down here. I've got to go down here. See, at impact, Trevino has 119 degrees of bend. In the next frame, he has 126 degrees of bend. Now think about that for a second. He went from 119 degrees bent at impact to 126 degrees bent in the next frame after impact in a 30th of a second. And he's only increased 7 degrees. Whereas now the modern player probably goes from 140 or 45 degrees bent at impact to nearly 180 degrees bent or straight at the next frame. And so what that means is how much straighter the arm is getting. And the reason the arm's getting straight is because he's not pivoting. So my contention here is that if we would ever see Ellsby with as much leg bend as Trevino and Sergio, and he gets through it like those guys do, that you'll see a player that'll knock the golf world on its ear. And so this question started out being, can you have too much lag? And I said, I don't think you can if you're soft at your wrist, hanging from your shoulders, free at your neck, and then when you get to release and you get to impact, do you have enough pivot left to get you through? Because the problem is when the club when it lines up like it does, that mass flying